Your pain is literally a roadmap to a better life. But of course, you have to choose that better life. You ever sit down in like maths class and think about how crazy the Pythagoras theorem is? A man from the 6th century, like 2,500 years ago. Like them dudes ain't had no toilet, no iPhone, no Google. He was able to sit down and look at a triangle. He looked at this triangle and he was able to figure out that this side times this side, no, this side squared plus this side squared equal the square of this side. You know how crazy that is? How long would you have to sit down and look at a triangle to figure that out? I'm talking about you. What would it take? It makes a little more sense when you realize that Pythagoras, the dude who the theory was named after, he was also a philosopher. And this guy, his main line of philosophy is that numbers were the key to understanding the universe. Basically, like every math teacher I've ever met. But you might be wondering what all of this has to do with the title of the video, but don't worry, I'm getting there. So, science, math, is just an attempt to see the world better, right? Because in all honesty, who is to say that if we can't understand the universe in its entirety, that we won't also be able to understand like our place in it? And so far, most of the science and math seems to be working. And of course it's not just Pythagoras. A bunch of old dead dudes pieced together the entire world basically from making an educated guess. And guessing again until they were right. And most of it's working. Assuming you're indoors, right? Take a look at the roof over your head, right? If that maths didn't hold up over hundreds and hundreds of years, like you wouldn't be here, bro. You wouldn't be here watching this video. You'd be dead. And we're continuing to use this maths to do all kinds of crazy garbage. Like really think about it. Like we're using maths and science that's thousands of years old. Well, some of it. But we're using maths and science that's thousands of years old to throw up buildings. We dragging dead dinosaurs out of the ground, liquefied dead dinosaurs out of the ground to go and put in our horseless chariots, as they were first called, to manufacture lightning. Bro, we doing some crazy stuff with this maths, right? We hurling hundreds of humans at a time into the, and I know I'm exaggerating, I'm phrasing it in a way where it sounds like I'm exaggerating. But if you stop and you meds the world, like, we doing a lot of mad stuff. And we're staking our lives on this math. That's the maddest part. And why? Like, you ask the question, why? Because as far as we can see, like, as far as we've tested these things, we've found the maths to be true. But what is truth really? Now, you'll sometimes hear people arguing about whether or not truth, as a concept, is absolute or relative. And me personally, absolute, like the actual definition for absolute truth is that absolute truth is a statement that's true at all times, in all places. And people usually use these to refer to universal truths, and obviously we don't have access to every time and every place in the universe to be able to verify what is true. It's just everything is a likelihood that is true. Relative truth is just the highest commonality between the widest range of experiences available to us. So I think based on that, we can get closer to absolute truth as a valid argument the more we know about the universe, blah, 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 right? But here's the real question. Within the realm of human experience, what is the truest thing that we know? So what's the experience that everyone has? What's something everyone has an experience of? It's not love, it's not riches, it's not fulfillment, it's not McDonald's, right? The closest thing I can think of to an absolute truth is pain. Yeah, this got really deep really quickly, right? But I mean, it's pretty obvious to me that there's not a man you can speak to on this planet, man or woman, dead or alive today, that will tell you that they have never suffered, right? So we're slowly approaching our answer to the original question. Well, my answer to the original question. However, we're going to need to get some definitions out of the way. And what are we defining? Pain. Pain, as defined by the The IASP, the International Association for the Study of Pain. Yes, okay. So according to the pain paraders, should I keep that? According to the IASP, pain is an unpleasant sensory and emotional experience associated with or resembling that associated with actual or potential tissue damage. I want to highlight the word resembling because the definition was revised in 2020 from the initial 1979 definition of an unpleasant sensory and emotional experience associated with the actual or potential tissue damage, or described in terms of such damage. And it's obvious after reading both these definitions, as well as they released a research paper on it. It's not a bad read, so I'll put the link in the description for anyone interested. It's obvious that after reading the paper, the people in charge of setting these definitions were adamant that because pain is both a physical and emotional experience, it's subjective and it can't be tied alone to tissue damage, which makes sense. And if we look at our own lives, I mean, it's pretty obvious, right? Like, you don't have to shed blood to feel it. You don't have to have an injury to feel pain, even as far as emotional pain goes. Like, nowadays we probably feel pain emotionally more than we do physically, given, how well we've been able to get most things together. But the thing is that life hurts. And that's kind of something that everybody knows as well, which is what makes it one of the truest things we know, is that across the entire human experience, basically every human that has ever existed can tell us that, they've suffered to some degree, because it's such a personal experience. It's the truest thing we know. It's the first thing that we run into when we come into the world, and we meet it with a bag of tears. You understand? But for the purposes of this video, I want to add my own more philosophical definition. Pain is the precursor to something called entropy. And entropy now is a word that describes the phenomena that everything in the universe tends to be moving towards a state of disorder. It makes sense. Like, everything seems to get worse by itself if you're not watching it. Things fall apart. Like, the house gets dusty, the dishes pile up, the car starts, my windowsill falls out. Yeah, like, if you don't watch none of this garbage, like, it'll just keep deteriorating until it all falls apart. Yeah, so like I was saying, everything seems to just get worse by itself. You ever notice that? Like, of course you notice that. You're paying attention. Like, if you don't watch any of this stuff, like, if you're not keeping an eye out for certain things, like most things, it will just end up getting worse if you leave it to it. You understand me? Like, it's a lot of work keeping up with life. So it's not difficult to wonder why or how people find the energy to, like, seemingly outrun all of life's problems. There's a quote by a madman named Friedrich Nietzsche, German youth: "Man is his own worst enemy because he has no other choice." And that's true too, because you hear it from people all the time. Yeah, it's not very strange to hear from people, yeah, my problem is that I drink too much, or my problem is I'm too lazy. If I wanted to, I could do it. My problem is I'm just too tired. Like, I come home from work and I tire. And I understand that one, because you know what I'm saying. Yeah, life is just too stressful. I'll be able to do all of that once I quit smoking, once I da-da-da-da-da. And the thing about it is, like, I'm not gonna sit here and act like that doesn't exist, because it exists, you understand? Like, I'm not gonna sit here and tell you that your pain ain't real. Like, I'm not gonna tell you, because I understand what it's like. I'm not gonna gaslight you like that. Like, I've come to realize there's a reason why it hurts to the degree that it does. I don't know if I want to sound all mushy talking about hurt, like uncomfortable. Yeah, that's the word they use in the definition. Was it uncomfortable? I know it's not uncomfort. That's not a word. Unpleasant. Because we soldiers out here, things don't hurt. Things are unpleasant. Yeah, there's a reason why it's so unpleasant. Because it's supposed to. Now, that's typically not the first line of reasoning that we come to. That's typically not the conclusion we come to. But if you look at the purpose of pain, pain is a signal that your body sends to you to try to warn you of some sort of It's trying to tell you something ain't right. It's warning you of some either physical or psychological breakdown or damage. So right now, it stands to reason that if you're feeling some kind of pain, uncomfort, or you're feeling, if life right now is a bit unpleasant, if you want to get real deep with it, like your own body, your own mind, everything in you, like your own soul is telling you in so many words that life ain't supposed to be like this. I know a lot of you would have internalized this, and this is obvious, and it has taken X amount of minutes for me to get to this point in the video, but hear me out, right? It hurts because you shouldn't have to live paycheck to paycheck. It hurts because you shouldn't have to work so much to make ends meet. It hurts because it shouldn't be so hard for you to find somebody to marry. Yes, you shouldn't have to work a job that you hate. Yes, you ain't really supposed to be lonely. You understand me? Like, you shouldn't have to be away from your family so long. You shouldn't have this debt you're struggling with. You should not be anxious and depressed. And I sympathize with you 100% on all of that, because I too am sitting on this space rock we call home, and I feel the pressure too. Everybody does. However, as much as possible, I need you to avoid telling yourself that life is supposed to be easy. Because let me tell you what's on the other side of this, right? And I'm talking from experience. Basically, every time you experience pain, you come to a crossroad. The emotion that pain brings out of you is energy. If pain is a signal that you're going in the wrong direction, in the same way, it's also a compass. It's not really the greatest compass in the world, but because pain is such a personal experience, because you're the one receiving the pain, because you're the one feeling unpleasant, then it's your problem to fix. Like, a lot of people go through life and they don't necessarily understand that. Like, if something's bothering you, then it's your job to fix it. The pain is yours because it's your responsibility to set things right. And the things that you'll have to do in order to do that aren't easy. So life ain't supposed to be easy. Like, ain't no easy on the left, ain't no easy on the right. Like, it's supposed to be hard. So, for example, like, you're going to have to look your unpleasantness directly in the eye, and you're going to have to come to terms with a lot that isn't really anybody else's fault. And it's not like you want to be out here blaming people anyways, because then you're just sitting it and you're just waiting for somebody else to come and fix your problems. Like, your hands ain't on the steering wheel, so you can't go where you want to go because you're waiting for somebody else, and they ain't checking. Not to sound no way, but ain't nobody checking. If you're going to get where you want to go, you gotta drive yourself. You'll have to have an honest conversation about who you are, why you're in the position you're in, and how you get out. You understand me? Like, you'll have to, when your hand's on the steering wheel, you can run into everything you've been running from for a long time. You understand me? But in that way, you'll run into everything that has been holding you back, and you'll now have a fair chance to fight it and win. There's a quote that I've been carrying in my back pocket for a long time. It says, adversity is a terrible thing to waste. There's actually another one as well by a completely different old dead dude that says, adversity is the first path to truth. Old dead dude's winning, spitting. Yes, sir! So let me wrap this up by saying there are two kinds of people, right? Those who experience adversity and pass it on to others in full through their horrible life decisions and habits. Horrible is a strong word. Those who lose to themselves. Lose is a strong word too. See how we can't get through this without using strong words? There are two kinds of people. There are those who get cut and bleed on others. And then there are those who get cut and sew themselves up and get back out on the battlefield, not only to defend themselves, but to defend everybody else. You understand? And I know if you're watching this video, you got a little bit of a hero complex. So you got to understand that that's your thing. Like, that's what you're supposed to be doing. You ain't supposed to be sitting down here complaining about whoever else and whose fault it is that your life is horrible. That's not for you, bro. And when you get to a point where you're used to that kind of behavior, you're used to taking the pain that life dishes out to you and turning it into something for the better, like to better you, ain't nowhere to go but up. Because once you start to better yourself, everyone around you starts to get better as well. Like, this is how you better everybody who you come into contact with. The minute you get a hold of it and you start to focus some of that energy on yourself, that's the whole focus on yourself thing, then you might get a little leverage with that after some time. And after you get your stuff together, then somebody else might look at you and be like, oh damn, he really doing it. Oh, he doing it. I just like him. What do you mean? That mean I could do it too. And they go and start to sort out their thing. And then somebody else who you don't even know can see that person, etc., etc., etc. Like, he can just, you understand me? And in theory, that's how you change the world. First, the change happens within yourself, and then within your family and friend circle, and then in the world at large. Most reasonable people, if they see a better way to live, as long as they don't let their bitterness about life get in the way and they genuinely want to improve, then ain't nothing can stop them from trying something else. You know, really and truly, when you think about it now, like, really and truly, the world in your hands, bro. Like it's up to you to look at the problems, to pay attention to your pain, to decide what needs fixing and to fix it. And then after doing that for a while, one, everything you ever wanted will fall into your hands. And two, everybody around you will be so much better off for that one decision you made to take responsibility for the pain that life has so graciously put on your plate. That's a pretty good ending to a video. Like, your pain is literally a roadmap to a better life. But of course, you have to choose that better life. We all do. It won't necessarily get easier, because there is no easy. Easy don't exist. But it will get better. So, on one side, you have hard, and it sucks. But on the other hand, you have hard, pause. On one side, you have difficult. On one side, you have difficult, and it's lame. Yeah, we can word that different. On one side, you have life is difficult and lame. And on the other hand, you have life is difficult, but it's also really good. You understand me? I'm kind of more on this side right now. And as far as I could tell, this is the much better option, bro. That was so lame. I don't know why I did that. Overall, without pain, or without the ability to pay attention to your pain, like, the world cannot become a better place. So what are you doing? Fix that.